Leia entered adulthood conditioned to command rather than dream. She had already internalized the mindset of responsibility and consequence, while Luke's foundation was imagination and escape. Leia's experiences as a senator's daughter and political leader built habits of discipline and pragmatic problem-solving that mirrored Jedi principles. Before she ever learned their language, she was already living the behavioral structure the Jedi teach. Leia's life trained her in composure under crisis long before the Force became relevant. Her survival of interrogation, the destruction of Alderaan, and continuous leadership under threat demonstrate that emotional containment was not new. Discipline was reflex, not lesson. She managed grief through function and decision rather than withdrawal. That composure forms the first layer of Force alignment. Luke entered in training seeking purpose. Leia approached it with purpose already intact. Luke's journey required transformation. Leia's required calibration. She did not need to find direction. She needed to refine sensitivity. Luke fought distraction. Leia filtered it away. Clarity became her method, not her discovery. Leia did not treat the Force as mystery or mythology. She treated it as application to her established discipline. Luke viewed it as a key to meaning. Leia viewed it as an extension of control. Luke searched for secrets. Leia searched for utility. That difference compressed her learning curve and eliminated wasted inquiry. Curiosity slows. Mastery, purpose, accelerates it. Her confidence in decision-making translated directly into instinctive Force responsiveness. The Force reacts to conviction. Leia made decisions without hesitation because hesitation endangers mission. The Force interprets indecision as noise and conviction as clarity. Leia's decisive nature tuned her frequency closer to alignment. Leia possessed emotional control through structure. Luke pursued control through struggle. Leia's authority forced her to remain composed. Luke's isolation allowed volatility. Exposure to chaos strengthens patience through necessity, but constant leadership strengthens patience through repetition. Leia's control was cultivated through duty, not through fear of failure. She never approached training with ego. Luke wrestled with expectation of greatness. Leia never associated power with self-worth. She measured success through efficiency rather than validation. When learning is detached from ego, progress becomes mechanical, not emotional. That detachment increases retention and accuracy. Leia's detachment from legacy also accelerated growth. Luke's identity was bound to myth and prophecy. He carried expectation. Leia rejected destiny as framework. She accepted ability as responsibility. Identity separate from heritage allows function without burden. Emotional freedom translates into faster learning. Leia's composure created clarity of perception. She did not interpret. Challenge as threat, she interpreted it as parameter. She evaluated outcome rather than identity. Luke personalized failure. Leia operationalized it. Self-definition impedes progress. When identity is tied to performance, Leia kept them separate. Her prior experiences as commander built empathy without indulgence. Jedi balance emotion and reason. Leia practiced that before training. She valued outcome over pride, yet maintained moral alignment. Decisions were utilitarian but compassionate. She functioned within the same ethical boundaries the Jedi idealized through teaching. Leia's confidence removed the need for external validation, which made her less reactive to failure. Luke required affirmation. Leia required data. When learning, the Force failure becomes feedback. Leia processed feedback structurally. Luke processed it emotionally. Structure refines skill, emotion prolongs interpretation. Leia viewed mastery as responsibility, not reward disorientation, prevents obsession with results and fosters sustainability. Luke pursued moments of victory. Leia pursued continuity, produces discipline, discipline produces fluency. Her learning efficiency was not gift, but habit. Leia's restraint reinforced connection, where Luke's intensity produced imbalance. Force sensitivity requires equilibrium of emotion and reason. Leia achieved this naturally. Through experience, she represented stability, learned from repetition. Luke represented Impulse learned from correction. Stability adapts faster because it begins balanced. Ultimately, Leia's training succeeded faster because she entered it already. Living the values the Jedi attempt to teach the Force did not need to transform her. It only needed to refine her existing discipline. What Luke sought to become Leia already was. Her progress demonstrated that the Force responds to structure as much as spirit. Leia learned within context of stability. Luke learned under crisis context. Defines retention. Stability allows integration, while crisis forces reaction. Luke's lessons occurred during pursuit and escape. Leia's occurred in preparation. Stability promotes precision, crisis promotes improvisation. Leia's process was methodical because conditions allowed repetition and analysis. Luke began his path through urgency. His mentors prepared him to survive. Not to perfect, Leia entered instruction when war had subsided and control returned. Her training could focus on depth rather than emergency application. Readiness influences learning, and Leia's readiness was intellectual, not situational. Luke carried unlearning requirements he needed to dismantle fantasy ideology and emotional assumption. Before applying discipline, Leia entered. Without those obstacles, she approached the Force. Without cinematic expectation, she accepted it as extension of reality rather than an escape from it. Less dismantling means faster construction. Leia's life experience had already conditioned her to Jedi-like sacrifice. Alderaan's destruction made attachment secondary leadership replaced personal need. She embodied the concept of service that Luke had to learn the Force favors, those who operate without personal agenda. Leia's lack of self-centered drive aligned her automatically with its rhythm. Luke's mentors prioritized mystique over transparency. Obi-Wan and Yoda used indirect teaching to provoke insight through deprivation. Leia's mentorship came from Luke himself, who provided clarity and emotional support rather than riddle and restraint. Straightforward communication increased retention and reduced misinterpretation. Leia learned within a post-Revelation galaxy where the Force was demystified. Luke's era required faith without evidence. Leia's era had context. Faith integrated with comprehension, environment effects pedagogy. The presence of institutional knowledge replaced spiritual abstraction with method. Luke trained isolated from peers and resources. His path was solitary. Leia learned within community, supported by existing framework. Peer learning accelerates correction, reduces error, duration, and prevents conceptual drift. Leia benefited from collective discipline, rather than improvisational survival. Leia's maturity removed impulsive barriers. Luke's youth produced reactionary choices. Leia's decisions followed. Evaluation. Impulse consumes. Energy evaluation. Conserves it. The Force mirrors. Internal process structured decision-making minimizes emotional interference, enhancing attunement. Her foundation in command created learning efficiency. She already understood delegation, prioritization, and consequence. Jedi training mirrors these leadership mechanisms. She simply replaced tactical awareness with metaphysical awareness. The structure remained constant, which reduced cognitive transition time. Leia's exposure to moral ambiguity during war allowed nuanced comprehension of light and dark without binary fear. Luke struggled to conceptualize balance because his framework was oppositional. Leia's framework was functional. She understood that opposing forces coexist under regulation, not eradication. Nuance accelerates mastery by preventing overcorrection. Where Luke viewed failure as personal flaw, Leia viewed it as procedural gap. The emotional neutrality of her interpretation removed resistance to feedback. Jedi growth depends on accepting correction without shame. Leia's executive experience normalized critique, allowing seamless integration of new learning. Luke's narrative required transformation. Leia's required optimization. Narrative design itself shaped perception. Luke's trials were existential. Leia's were technical. Existential growth is slower. Technical refinement is faster. Her progress was efficient because the story context required skill enhancement, not moral awakening. Leia benefited from inheriting lessons distilled from others. Luke's failures became her foundation. She did not repeat his missteps because they had already been documented. Progress multiplies when prior error is codified as guidance. Generational learning shortened the distance between ignorance and competence. Leia surpassed Luke not because she possessed greater potential, but because environment, timing, and discipline. Aligned mastery depends on preparation. Opportunity and context. She learned when the world allowed learning. Luke learned when the world demanded survival. Stability teaches faster than struggle, and structure always beats improvisation.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.